Yeah, I think so. Here.
Hello.
Hi, how's it going? Who's this?
This is Dan.
Hey, Dan, how's it going?
Good.
Good, good. Can you see my screen okay, the Welcome to the Profit with a Co-Finder screen there on your computer?
Yeah.
Fantastic. We can hear you okay.
I'm going to switch it to speaker. And then
no problem. No problem at all. We're going to wait a few minutes just so all the attendees can get in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks again for joining.
All right. Can you hear me now? It's on speaker.
We can hear you perfect.
I hear you fine too.
Fantastic. All right, everybody that's on right now, we are going to get started here in about 4 minutes. We're waiting for a few other people to join, but I wanted to let everybody know that we'll get started here in about 4 minutes.
All right.
So you need to finish that. If email's optional, if you don't want to do it, just say okay so it goes off our screen.
All right, everybody, we're waiting on just a couple more people. We will start this meeting in 2 minutes. And again, I appreciate everybody joining today.
Okay.
Yeah.
Set up email on there. Is that it?
I think so.
Maybe
Yeah.
passcodes are easier. I hate having a whole bunch of different codes.
Uh-huh.
It's like password. Just one all the time.
Jeff?
Yes, Deb.
Guess we're ready.
All right, we're going to get started here in 1 more minute. I think there's one more person joining right now. We'll get started here in just a minute. One thing if I could ask everybody to do so that we're able to hear Deb when she gets on to present is if everybody could hit the mute buttons on their phones or mute themselves on the GoToMeeting. Obviously, when you're ready to ask questions and so forth, go ahead and unmute, and that will allow everybody to hear what's going on without any interruptions. So thanks again, guys. All right, fantastic. Looks like we are ready to get started. First things first, can everybody see in the middle of the screen where it says Welcome to Profit with a Co-Founder? If you can't see that, if you could speak up and let me know, that would be great. All right, fantastic. Sounds like everybody can see here. Let's get things going here. My name is Jeff. I'm the General Manager here at Profit Rhino. First thing I'd like to do is thank everybody for taking the time today. I'm sure everybody's coming to the end of what's been probably a long, busy week. It means a lot to us that you guys took some time out of your Friday to spend with us. I want to get into introducing our co-founder, Deb Fry. You know, she doesn't really like to talk about herself, so I'm going to do a little introduction for her. Just want to give you a little bit of background, let you know why she's such a valuable asset to the Profit Rhino team. First things first, Deb is a former owner of 3 contracting businesses. So what makes her story unique and gives her some perspective is that she was able to build all 3 of these businesses from the ground up and turn them into businesses with a consistent 25% net profit using the Rhino menu pricing and selling system. What makes her unique, again, is that her understanding of the contracting business and the day-to-day challenges that you guys all face is the reason why we have such a great product in Profit Rhino. The one thing I would encourage all of you to do is at some point at the end of this meeting, go ahead and connect up with her on Google+, LinkedIn, sign up for our e-newsletter. That way we can keep in contact with you. I think you're going to find that she's going to be a valuable resource, you know, for as long as you guys get a chance to know her. So with that said, I'd like to get the ball rolling, turn it over to Deb and let her take the reins from here. Deb, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks, Jeff, for the introduction. And thanks again to all of our attendees for taking some time out to profit with me, the co-founder of Profit Rhino. I like to think of Profit Rhino as the contractor's pain reliever because we provide tools and training to remove your business stress and get your life back. As Jeff mentioned, I created, branded, and successfully sold 3 separate contracting businesses, an electrical contracting business, plumbing, and pool repair. But I actually had a very big problem that I don't talk about much. I was actually the victim of my own success. The business was taking my life away from me. Phone calls from techs all day for pricing. I had piles of data entry that was weeks behind. On top of that, my sales were pretty inconsistent, so my labor costs were really high. My gross sales to the bank looked real great, but I didn't have much profit, and unfortunately, I'm embarrassed to say I was working for essentially minimum wage, putting in hours and not being compensated. I just knew that I had to do something, so I took a step back, took a deep breath, and I just thought to myself, there has to be a better way. There has to be a system or a process that can just take all of these interruptions and possibly make me some money, because that's the reason I was in business. At least that's the reason I started my business. So I really took a deep look at the business. I took a step back, and I thought, I'm going to look at this business from top to bottom. And I worked on what I like to call later a 3-legged stool of the contracting business. And that's the front office phones, the back office, and the field. And after doing this, really digging into the nitty-gritty, what I found after, it took me almost a year, but after that, this analysis, putting processes and people in place, I ended up making 3 times the profit. Of course, that's not saying a whole lot when you start out at minimum wage, but it was much, much more within a year. And I actually was able to increase my sales by 50%. I basically doubled my sales using the systems and methods. And my techs were actually happy for once. My data entry time, and this is something I'm really proud of, was cut virtually in half. And my people were making more money, which also made me proud. And here's the best part. Now it's your turn to do the same thing. Today, I'm going to give you the juicy secret sauce that I use to consistently profit by at least 25%. My bottom line in all of these businesses ran between 25 and 29%, not gross, net. So here's what I want to do. I want to have us put our aprons on, and we're going to tie them tight because we don't want any of the sauce to be splashing on ourselves. So at the end of the day, conservatively, this information should profit you by $100,000 a year. And this is, as I said, this is conservatively. We're going to start at the cradle with your telephone. Then we're going to get down and dirty with service agreement selling. And, of course, my personal favorite, how Profit Rhino started, and that's the flat rate pricing. And at the end of each segment, so when we go through telephone, service agreement, flat rate, at the end, we're going to take questions and answers. And then finally, we're going to have a lightning round where it's going to be a more open question and answer, and you can even ask other questions. And you can just about ask me anything, but that's within reason. I just want to throw that one out there. Okay, now we're going to take a look at profit with the telephone. I have to say, I first looked at my telephone because that's where 90% of my sales occurred. And it sounds a little strange, profit with the telephone. We're not selling telephones, but what's happening on the phone is sales. What I found in my business is that my phone was being answered very professionally. So I was happy with that. That was great. But after listening to hours of my reps on the phone, I really found that they were customer service pros. Again, you might think, geez, that's really good. But the problem was I heard them practically troubleshooting with the customers. They really let the customer drive the direction of the call. And what that means is the customer just wanted to ask a quick question. So the rep would answer it. Sometimes right, sometimes wrong. But the fact that there was no sale occurring was really my fault because I never told them, meaning the reps, that their objective or the objective of the call was to book a job, not to perform customer service. And that's groundbreaking because typically you're saying you bring someone in, you say, okay, sit down, answer the phone, and then go and give the job to dispatch, put it on the board, and so forth. And that's not really what we want to be doing in the contracting business. We want to look at the contracting business like any other call center, except we want to structure it more towards a sales center. So basically what I was doing, because of the fact that it wasn't sales, or the mission was not sales, I was only booking around 30% of my inbound calls. So I had just spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to make that phone ring. And I'd hear the phone ring, and I'd be all excited, yay, the phone's ringing. And here my reps were telling the customer, oh, you don't need us for that. You could just blah, blah, blah. Or, oh, let me go ask Joe to give you an answer and have one of the techs call the customer. But then there was no service call booked. So, for example, and I talked about I actually had 30%, and how I come up with that number is for every 10 inbound calls that I listened to, I only had 3 that actually turned into an appointment. And when I say conversion, I'm not talking about sales conversion. I'm talking about an opportunity to be in front of the customer, to kick the door open. So in our industry, in the service and repair industry, and I'll be more specific, we should really be looking at 80%, or 8 out of 10 calls. So if you listen to your calls, and there's no question people call, a lot of them are tire kickers, a lot of price shoppers, I know that. But what you need to understand is if you make things simple for your your frontline people, and what I call that's the cradle. That's where it all happens. So if you make it simple for them that all they need to do, remove the stress, all you need to do is book an appointment. Don't answer technical questions. This is what you need to do. So by, again, I was saying these are not sales, but by making it simple for them, you're going to increase your conversion rate. And it's just like in baseball, that the more times you get the bat, the more opportunities you're going to have to close that sale. The more opportunities to sell, the more sales. Okay? So rule number 1 that I've uncovered in my another piece of gold, in any business, if you want an employee to do something, you need to write it down. You need to write it down, and better yet, have them sign off that they're going to do it. So what I did was I developed some very simple scripts. I wasn't trying to make an outbound call rep out of, a professional, so to speak. I wanted them to be the same level they were. I didn't go out and hire new people. I just told them how to say it, what to expect, and what I expected. That's it. So the scripts I gave them weren't word for word, but here's how you greet the customer. Here is what you say when you get an objection. For example, I want a price. I only want a price. The customer keeps pushing. Well, we'd like to give you a price, but any price that we give over the phone is actually going to be inaccurate, and we don't think that's fair. So we'd just like an opportunity to come out, take a look at it, and give you a price up front. And most of our customers appreciate that. That's a kind of a little mini script that I would give them. Basically, there was very little pushback because my reps were happy to know exactly what I wanted, because everybody wants to know what they need to do for their job. They basically, they followed the script, they booked an appointment. You follow the script, you book an appointment. We actually were able to change our culture from a customer service department to a sales center. The reps were paid a commission to book those appointments, not just to answer the phone. It was just a few bucks, but it worked. And boy, did it work. Our conversion rate went into the 90s. I couldn't believe it. We were almost perfect. We almost had, there were certain weeks we were perfect. And it may sound silly to go out, and maybe it's expensive. You're thinking, rolling the tires when they just had a question. But if you're in front of that customer, now it's the tech's responsibility to get a sale. And we'll get into that later. But we just had a nice system. And now I could go into my next areas of the business and look at what else I could focus on and perhaps relax a little bit more. Now, the biggest bang for a buck, hands down, was the telephone, with the telephone, was outbound calling. Now, I'm really not talking about cold calling here. Just reaching out to our customers and offering a free safety inspection or some other freebie. People would let us get in the door. Again, using scripts and giving a small bonus for the appointment set. Our techs went out and they upsold. It was a beautiful thing. Boom, these changes just made my sales double. I couldn't believe it. And I like to say it made me look like an effing genius. I actually was more surprised than anyone else that it could be that simple, and I can't convey that enough at how these small changes, just some scripts for people, making them understand what's important, and that their mission is to book an appointment, that the tech's objective is to close the sale, and keeping it simple. There's nothing wrong with asking to be a profitable business. Your employees come to work every day and get 100% margin on their time. So they come in and they get 100%. They're paid for every hour. It's time that all of us as contractors start to expect to be paid what we're worth and actually get that bonus, get the vacation we want, put our kids in the schools we want, and just not sweat the payroll every week and all the other fun stuff that comes along with small business. And I actually just finished an ebook called, go figure, Profit with the Telephone, that includes all of the steps necessary for you to use this process, including job descriptions, scripts, and lots of resources, even on the web, how to use text messaging for appointments, real interesting stuff. And Jeff will be more than happy to give you the details of that if you're interested in a copy of that book. Now, moving along, I think we're ready to go into the profit with the flat rate. And as you can see, we're talking about $42,000 per truck. If any of you are not currently using flat rate, this is actually an understated number, but this actually is my favorite part of the training. Absolute, hands down, my favorite. It's actually the field leg, what I call that three-legged stool. So we just talked about the telephone and now into the field side. And you know, just being candid, it might sound strange, but the flat rate pricing actually gave me my life back. I could eat lunch. I could take a vacation. I learned how to semi-relax. If you knew me well enough, you'd know I have an awful hard time relaxing, but semi-relax, because I knew I was making money on every repair sold. Because I can't tell you how many times I would hear my guys talking about jobs, high-fiving each other that they sold, and I just would sit there and go, but did I make any money? Did I make a profit? Before flat rate, my day consisted of 7 guys calling me 35 times a day for pricing. No question they called other people in the office, but when I looked at the prices we gave them in a given week, it turned out that I was giving different prices for the same task anyway. I just didn't have a good process, and neither did they. Some of my techs would underestimate the hours, the number of hours that they needed. Like when they would call, they'd say, "Oh, I'm going to be here 2 hours, and then I'm going to need $45 worth of parts," and things like that. They'd forget parts, and basically my I'm sorry, I just heard someone come off. Are we still on, Jeff?
Yep, we're still going on.
Okay, awesome. So anyway, getting back, as I said, some of my techs would underestimate the number of hours, or they'd forget the parts needed. At the same time, there's my customer standing, waiting, just waiting for a price. They want to buy, but they want a price. And basically, here's my tech, has to go walk out to the truck, call the office, I'm going to do this, there's the poor guy, he's trying to replace a faucet or fix a faucet, whatever. You know, in my case, I had electrical too, so maybe he's trying to replace a breaker. He even knows in his head how much to charge, but he has to call in and get a price. But think of it, you know, here he is, he comes back in, he's just so frustrated because he just doesn't look professional. And my customers really weren't buying because the minute the tech seemed like he didn't know what to charge, then fear and distrust would just settle in. So I don't know who needs to mute. Somebody needs to mute. They didn't feel connected, and they didn't feel engaged in the sale. And this is my customer. The objective of flat rate is to actually show the customer, here's the price. We're not making this up as we go along by the seat of our pants. And at the end of the day, in our rush to get more sales, we forget that we need to make things easy for our techs, our office staff, and our customers. So that was it. I knew it. I needed a price book. With a flat rate price book, I preset the profit I wanted to make. Think of it. It's like developing a new life for yourself, a new life for your business. Now you know what you're going to make on a task. If somebody sells a particular task, you know how much money you made. I even created a break-even tool so I knew how much money to charge for labor. I figured in all of my overhead costs, and we also have that here at Profit Rhino. On average, with flat rate, I added $33 per job. Now, with 255 working days, I keep going to say 365, in a year, if you do the math on that, that's $42,000 a year per truck. And in my case, with 7 trucks, that was $294,000 extra profit, not sales, extra profit a year. And in my opinion, that's major coinage. And I just want to make sure I have your attention with 294. So with throwing $300,000 on the bottom line of my business, suddenly I had people interested in buying my businesses. The value was outrageous. I mean, that's just one part. We haven't even gotten to service agreements yet. My guys loved it because they felt, and I'm talking about flat rate, the techs totally loved it because they felt more professional being able to give a price quickly. What they told me was it actually made them feel when they went in, they had their at the time it was a paper book, so they have their book, they had a briefcase, they had their booties, their uniforms. I mean, it totally is a selling system, but they would offer service agreements. So we sold the customer to where we owned the customer. There was such a connection. So what that did was that ended up allowing us to start closing into the high 90s of our service calls. And why that was is, think of it, they're on the phone with the customer at the office, and they're explaining what's going to happen when the guy gets there. In other words, hey, we're going to give you an upfront price, just like I explained in the beginning, and now the technician walks in, he looks very professional, he gives that price, and so there was a confidence built with the customer. Now, and the customer, the conflict that occurs, the natural conflict that, oh, you're here to rip me off, you're here to hit me with a high price, it just melted away, and it really grew our business. Getting started with flat rates really doesn't have to be a big project, and I know in a lot of cases I talk to hundreds and hundreds of contractors, and there's a big fear about changing their pricing and so forth. But what I recommend is that you start small. You start with one tech, and you run through the process. And what I mean by that is let them go to a few service calls, even test them right there in the office. But make sure you communicate to your customers with a little email or a letter, whatever you feel better with, that they'll know the price up front. Most customers actually love it. And the reason the customers love it is because they're not guessing anymore. Instead of that technician walking in the door saying, hi, Mr. Customer, yeah, you need that breaker replaced or maybe a condenser removed and replaced, that's going to be $75 or $80 an hour or $100 an hour plus parts. So what's the customer say? How much is it? So the technician says it's $75 or $100 an hour plus parts, and the customer says, so how much is it? And that's the conflict. You might think, oh, if I raise my prices, I'm going to lose my customers. As I said, $33 on an average job, you should never lose a customer over that. But you can't believe how much exponentially that makes in terms of profit. Now, I also made my guys a bonus program that if they build out more time based on the total time for their tasks against versus or against their payroll, they get a little bonus. And I'm going to give you an example. Let's say, well, I have to start with explaining, for those of you who don't understand how flat rate works, that each task has time associated with it in minutes. And let's say that we have 4 tasks that this individual is going to do in a day, and they're each 60 minutes. So now we have 4 hours that they've billed out. If they come back to the shop and they've billed me 8 hours, I'm not a very happy camper because now my productivity is only 50%. But if we reverse that and we say he worked 4, or he or she, and billed out 8, then I know not only am I profiting on each task, but I'm also getting a bonus, if you will, of productivity. So there's a lot more to flat rate in terms of even the $42,000. When I talk about in the beginning of this training, $100,000 at a minimum, I'm very, very conservatively, you're talking about doing that even with just 1 truck, because you're going to start sending a message to those technicians that there's productivity expectations. Right on the app, it actually shows the number of minutes associated with the task. So when I talk about the simple, fast, and easy ways, of course, communicate to your employees, do a test with one person, communicate to your customers, and also make sure you sit down with those techs and your back office staff and explain to them, don't get hung up on the individual task, get hung up on the time. Because if they pick, and unless it's a hugely expensive, which is a very small part of the book is actually items over $100 cost in parts, okay, very small, less than 5%. So typically, 90% of the time, they're doing a repair. If you're doing a faucet repair for a Moen or a faucet repair for a Price Pfister, it's still 60 minutes. So just looking at the time associated with it is the biggest key, because more than 85% of the value of each task is labor and repair, as we all know. It's a very small percentage is the actual value of the part. And that's why in our system we teach you to mark those parts up 3 and 4 times, because it really is a very small percentage of the task. So even though my price book was way better than time and material guesstimates, that I was living in that kind of hell, I was frustrated. I was actually frustrated with the book because it had limitations. Finding things was hard. As I said, it was a paper book, and it was really cookie cutter. And it just couldn't be customized to the level I wanted. I wanted global updates. So on parts, I wanted to be able to add tasks, add categories, subcategories. I wanted to make the book my own. And I felt like there has to be the same way for other contractors, that we're not all the same. We're not all, sure, we do a lot of tasks that are the same, but every business is different. And basically, when I wasn't in the office, I didn't have a price book. What I really wanted was something fast, something mobile, and something 100% customizable. So what I did was I approached the owner of a desktop version of Flat Rate that I really liked, and that's when Profit Rhino was born. Before we jump into how to, and I want to get into the service agreements, but before we get into that and show you how to make a fortune and raise your business valuation by selling service agreements, let's take a look at the Profit Rhino app and see how it works in the field. Now, Jeff's going to give us a little, I think it's a 5-minute tour. Jeff?
Yeah, a little quick tour, and for just a second, your screens are going to go blank while I pull up my my Profit Rhino. So just if your screen goes blank, nothing's wrong with your computer. All right. And now can everybody see my screen again? All right, good. I'm assuming everybody can. If you didn't see it can, I'm going to assume you're looking at it here. This is our Profit Rhino mobile application for use in the field. A couple things to point out first is I have it viewing on an iPad here, but our Profit Rhino app works on both iPads and Androids with the exact same look and same functionality. So the flexibility to use it on whatever tablets you have in the field is it's a very nice thing to have. First things first, as you can see here, we have a logo front and center. This is actually the logo for one of our plumbers that we have on down in the city. Nice little logo there. Obviously, you can put any logo that you have for your business, conveys your professionalism, keeps your branding there front and center. As we all know, branding is really, really important. Customers remember, things very visually. So to keep your brand there is something that we like to allow you to do, pretty simply. At the top, you're going to see the no surprises guarantee. Again, you approve the price before we do the work. And at the bottom, again, based on the National Billing and Estimating System. On the bottom right-hand corner, we have the Consumer's Choice logo. Standard of trust, again, just conveys trust with the customer. Everything is very simple from here. If you look up in the top left-hand corner, there's a little book. We're going to touch this book, and this is where we jump into our price books. Now, obviously, we have some electrical contractors, some HVAC, some plumbing. You would have the trade types that apply to you. I have, for a demo's sake, everything loaded in here. I touch in my book, and you'll see all the product categories. We're going to jump into plumbing. Just for the sake of time, we'll look at a couple tasks. Now, a couple things to point out really quickly. As you can see, the app moves very quickly. There's no delays, and it's very simple. It's like using a restaurant menu. So the most important thing for everybody to understand is this isn't something that's going to take, a 40-hour course for your techs to be able to use in the field. As you can see, it's simple. I find, the task or the category I'm looking for, and I simply touch it. We're going to get down here to water closet repairs. Very simple. And again, the hanging signs at the top tell me exactly where I am. So I'm in my plumbing book under water closet repairs, and let's take a look at tank rebuilds. Now, as Deb mentioned, some things to point out here that are really, really important. The task number and then the minutes associated with that task, you can see here, are right beside the task itself. Now, the ability to customize the book that Deb mentioned is probably the thing we're the most proud of. You can make these tasks, you can put the descriptors of these tasks, anything you want to. We like to say that the book is ready to go out of the box, but we also understand that in reality, your price book should fit into your business. Your business shouldn't have to fit into your price book. So the ability to put your own descriptors in here, to do anything you want to the price book, is something that's going to allow you to make it your own. If you look up here at the top too, there's also 6 bullet points that we have in here. Again, we have some verbiage in there, but those are all yours to customize as well. It's a great place for you to put things like, made in USA, if you're using, those kind of parts, or, hey, check out our service agreements. It's a great way to put some different things in there to show your customer a little bit more about your business. To drill down a little bit more, we're going to go right into this first task, a major tank rebuild. And here's where things get really important. Deb's just about to go into service agreements, and I'm not going to steal a ton of her thunder here, but you're going to see here we have it set up with a standard rate, a value rate, and a use save column. That use save column is in bold red for a reason. What that is designed to do is it's designed to get your customer to take a look and say, hey, how do I save $51.47 today? We know that your tech's core competency is to go out there and perform these tasks. That's what they're good at. Techs, we want to make it as easy on them as possible to sell these service agreements because we know the kind of revenue it generates and the way it builds, a relationship with a customer and keeps that customer from shopping around. And again, I promise I won't steal any more of Deb's thunder when it comes to service agreements. The main thing to point out is how easy it is for your techs to sell service agreements when it's right here and it engages the customer. So as you can see, to move in and out of the app is very quick. We did no waiting, and it's also very, very simple. I find the task, I touch it, it's right there. So it's exactly like a restaurant menu. Now to move back and forth is also very easy. I can touch any one of these hanging signs, and it will bring me back to where I started. And more importantly, the one thing that I really love about the app is the ability to see the parts associated with that task right there front and center. So I touch my parts tab. Now my tech has a laundry list, if you will, of parts he needs to do that job. Now chances are he probably already knows them for most jobs, but you're going to run into an odd job now and then where the tech's going to be, hey, what do I need to make sure I have everything I need to do this job? Maybe it's not on the truck. Maybe he needs to go down to a hardware store to, find those things. Now he's got a laundry list, a shopping list, if you will, to make sure he has the parts needed to perform that task the way that he needs to perform it. So very, very simple. We love the way the app shows in the field. We love how quick it is, how easy it is to move in and out. It's a very short version of kind of the app in the field, but it gives you a really good overview of what we're talking about when we say, hey, this is going to make it easy for your techs to go out and do things. It's going to make it easy for them to sell service agreements. So that's kind of a real brief overview of the app. I'm going to let Deb jump back in and get kind of into service agreements because I think they're going to be one of the biggest portions of this. So again, your screen's going to go blank for just one more second, and we'll get back into to where we're selling service agreements.
Yep. Thanks, Jeff. Good job. And I, of course, love the app. I love the presentation, the branding. If you notice, we also have the national flat rate price book industry standard there on the standard of trust. So the idea is we're conveying trust to that homeowner. And that's why I kind of wanted to get that in between the service agreements, the explaining the flat rate and then going into service agreements, because it actually helps to explain how we sell those service agreements and also why your customer is going to want them. In my business, I saw the opportunity for selling service agreements. I'd read about it. I'd been told about it, mostly through like HVAC people. And I got to be honest, I was pretty skeptical that it would work, especially in the electrical contracting business that I had. Most electricians don't offer anything like that. It didn't really make sense to me. But the profit potential, which always gets my attention. If there's profit to be made, I'm paying attention. So the profit potential was so huge at more than $25,000 a truck. I mean, I just jumped in. And where that number comes from is most of our customers sell them, or most of the industry sells, even on the electrical side, around $100, around $99 for a service agreement. And if you sold one a day, again, using the 255 working days, you would find that that's $25,245. Just could not ignore that ability. And with 7 trucks, here's another, over 100,000. So I just dove in. I ordered my agreement forms and inspection forms, and I tried it. And my guys, to be honest, weren't very happy about selling something extra. So I took one tech, and I made him my champion of service agreements. He had a little champion crown and, walked around and said how many service agreements he sold every day and so forth. He was a really competitive guy, so he was bragging in no time, and the other guys wanted in. And the reason for that is, yes, it was competitive, but, and I'll talk about that in a minute, I did a little bonus program for them, and so it really got competitive. It was the, shark-infested waters in the service agreement selling area. But, throughout the year, I talked to hundreds of contractors, and they all think that their customers, just like I did, they wouldn't want them. And actually, the opposite is true, especially utilizing this field pricing, app we have here, this flat rate pricing app. We have that you save column. So when the customers see that, the best practices is your technician is standing there and not running to the truck, but right in front of the customer. They have the app, and they're just like Jeff did. They're navigating through the app after they've determined what, obviously, they've already determined what needs to be repaired. But the customer can actually interact and get engaged. The customer could push some of the navigation buttons and say, well, what about this, and what about this option, and so forth. But what happens, because that column is in red, it gravitates their eyes to that column. And we all know that everybody loves a discount. The customer's going to ask. The technician, whereas in my situation, my technician I had to push to sell, it's a pull, because here's the customer pulling, saying, hey, how do I get that discount? Because it's right up in their face. So now they start to really sell themselves. And you ask yourself why. Okay, why would they want to pay to get a discount? It's because, think of it like a little less like a service agreement and more like a membership. It's like a Costco membership. It's a savings membership to your company. Value rate customers, and this is how it's supposed to be explained, value rate customers pay a yearly fee and they receive discounts. It's that simple. We call it, within the industry, service agreements, but you don't need to call it a service agreement. You could call it a membership. You could call it a club, whatever you want to call it. But that and that value rate is very, very, very powerful in making people make the decision to buy. So I'm going to get a discount right now on this task, and by paying that $99, any other repair I'm going to need throughout the year is also going to be discounted. And I use 15% because that's the industry standard. If you want to use 5, 30, whatever you want to do. that's not a discount off your base rate, keep in mind. Let's say that for repairing a faucet, you're going to get $180. You're not going to take $180 and discount it 15%. You're going to add 15% to that $180, and that's going to become your standard price, and then your value rate is the $180 or your lowest price. I hope everybody gets that. And we're getting to our questions, and I apologize I didn't slow down enough to give you time for that. But so as I said, our customers charge around $99 per year, and they offer what they call a bi-yearly inspection. And what happens is there's an inspection form, which we have in our shopping cart. It's a fillable PDF with signature captures. So it's a pass or fail, which I'm sure if you want to see any of these items, Jeff can do something offline with everyone so he'll do a one-on-one on that. But what happens with these forms is now you're able to show, or your technician is able to show that customer the value of that $99. Not only are you going to get this discount, but I'm going to do an inspection once or twice a year. Some do it yearly. We did it yearly, and we came through with paper documents. But, you know, having the fillable PDF, in my opinion, is more than my opinion. From a financial standpoint, you're going to pay $300–400 a year to print them, and you buy them once, and they're fillable, and they have your logo on it, and one and done. So, as I said, this is now when you're doing the inspection, now you're going to come back again next year. Here you are again with another sales opportunity. You're kicking the door in, you're looking around. You get a chance to go back, look around, upsell them, total slam dunk. This is hands down, one of the best sections of the flat rate selling system. And this is why I can't convey this enough, that this is not just a price book. This is a selling system. This changes the playbook in your business. This changes everything between you and your competitor, because now you own that customer. That customer is paid to join your membership, okay? Now, it's just, in my opinion, bar none, the fastest way to get reoccurring cash flow in your pocket. And I say reoccurring because we're going to get into renewal tips in a minute, because now you're getting these people there connected to you. They know what to expect, they understand the upfront pricing, and as I said, it's a selling system. So basically, getting the techs to sell them. It's my philosophy that if you want something done, you have to pay for it. So how do the techs love selling service agreements? What we did in my business is we gave the techs $10, real simple. I'm fairly simple girl, fairly. I'll have to get documentation on that, but it's $10 is what we gave them per service agreement sold. So we made it really simple for the back office to be able to keep track. One sold, they got $10. If we were doing our renewals, and I'll go back to that $10. Really, what the joke in the office was, it was like winning a free lunch every day. We put signs up, and we gave a prize for the most sold, and really we just raked in the dough, because one a day, 25 grand, and that's one truck. Okay, it's not that difficult, especially when you utilize this app. Now, on the renewals, renewing year over year is really an easy process. All you have to do is call your members or email them, and I call them members because they are members of your value rate. But here's the thing: you don't want to call and ask them, "Do you want to renew? Are you ready to renew?" You tell them it's time to sign up. And I'll give you an example. Hello, Mr. Jones. It's Debbie from ABC Services. It's time to sign up for your value rate membership. We don't want you to miss out on your 15% value rate pricing or your safety inspection. Would you like a 1, 2, or 3-year renewal? This is an example of some of our scripts that we have available on Profit with the Telephone. But what we're trying to do for the customer, we're all so busy, that customer doesn't want to be asked the question like, do you want to? It's time. and we're ready to. And action words. Simple, no decision making at all. That's it. That's your renewals. Now, whoever gets the renewal gets the $10. Now, you might say, why do I have to give $10 again? Who cares? You're getting $89 in your pocket. What's it going to cost you for a guy to go back in and inspect for 15, 20 minutes? That way you have things to do, and you hold them accountable to upsell, and that's what happened. My guys were really upselling when they went back out because they wanted the $10 to close that renewal. And my call center people and the techs would go, did you close them? Did I close them? That's the kind of argument you want to have if you're going to have an argument in the office. Now, moving into business valuation, this is the real deal here, the real value of a service agreement. When you sell service agreements, your sales are not a one and done. As I said, you own the customer. You now own them. They're not price shopping anymore because they know they have a discount with you. Why do you think Costco and Sam's Club doesn't make any money on their stuff and they make a fortune on membership? Billions with a B, by the way. It's because they only buy from Costco because of the perception of discount. So it's all psychological, Coach. Basically, it just means that your customer list from a valuation standpoint just multiplied 3 times. And what I mean by that is the value of it. So that yearly reoccurring revenue, when you go to sell your business, if you were ever thought about it, which we all have, actually takes the value of your business and improves it up to 3 times what you would get now. Because if somebody looked at your business right now, they'd look at your customers coming in, and there's no guarantee that they're going to buy again. When you have service agreements, you're basically telling a new owner you have these sales coming in every year. I hope that makes sense to everybody. And I basically, when it's, and by the way, that's the one thing I forgot. There is a little contract at the end. This is just a joke, so don't get crazy. When it's time for you to sell, after I teach you this, you can call me and thank me, or just a little commission check. That'll work. No problem. But anyway, I want everybody to take your mics off at this point, and we're going to go into the lightning round, which is for questions. That's our question and answer. Jeff?
Yes. So yeah, anybody who has some questions, go ahead. You can unmute your phones and
I'd like to get your first name and trade if I could. Jeff, you want to change the slide?
I did. Everybody should see the lightning round on the slide. Does everybody see that?
Got it.
Fantastic.
Are there any questions, thoughts? Jeff?
No, like I said, I don't know if anybody has any questions. If you do, like I said, feel free to jump in.
Maybe they don't know they have to unmute. You have to unmute your mic so we can hear you. Are there any questions? Any thoughts?
Dan, Joe, Mike, anybody? Fantastic. That's great.
That's the first. Should we
Got
play
a lot
music?
to think about.
I'm sorry I didn't get that.
Just a lot of information to think about for a while before we can really come up with good questions.
Absolutely. A couple things. Anybody who would like a one-on-one demo, I know we went through a lot of things here. If anybody wants to take a longer look at the app, take a look at the back end, really be able to see some of the ways that we can customize your Profit Rhino app, again, to fit into your business. If you want to see invoices, myself or Brendan Moulter, our Director of Client Services, we would be happy to take some extra time out with you guys and go through some of those things. Again, as Dan mentioned, we went through a lot of things today. There's a lot of great information there. So, obviously, as you guys have questions, you can email us, call us. And then here, if you look at this slide here, there's some ways you can connect up directly with Deb. I think it's a fantastic opportunity. Of course, there's her phone number with her extension, her email, and then, of course, a LinkedIn ID. And I can make sure that anybody who wants that information via email can get it as well. Thank you, everyone, so much for attending. Again, like I said, it's a Friday. You guys chose to spend an hour of the last day of your work week with us, so we can't tell you guys how much we appreciate it. I will be emailing out and contacting everybody with a promo code for the Profit Pricer tool that we promised everybody to get for free. So I'll make sure that you guys all have that and that you're able to get that and use that so you can have that field pricing tool.
Jeff, this is Dan Cruz.
Hey, Dan.
I was wondering about the telephone script. You have that available?
We do. You know what, Dan? Let's catch up here. You and I will give you a call directly, and I'll kind of go over that with you as well. So we'd definitely be happy to give you kind of a tour of that.
And then I'd like to say thanks for sharing all that information. That's
You're welcome.
Really
yeah, thank you guys. Thank you guys for attending. Dan, I'll catch up with you afterwards. Anybody else have any questions before we go ahead and end the meeting?
Yeah, I'm sitting on the bench waiting. I'm ready. Go ahead and ask me anything within reason. You got anything, Dan?
I think we're good. We're just, getting set up here and gonna start using this. And
Fantastic.
I think you explained everything pretty well, so I don't know that we have any questions. Maybe once we jump in and start using it, then we'll have some questions.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Right.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. Like I said,
Yeah.
I will follow up with you all with an email so you can get that that field pricing tool, and feel free to contact us if you'd like to do a one-on-one demo. Again, thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.